Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and it's tier list time. We have a brand new tier list to go over. I went over the top comments in our last week's video covering zero cost cards in Hearthstone, and the top comment was recommending we take a look at Hearthstone keywords. So we're doing that this week. So again, if you want to contribute, you want to influence what our next tier list will be, make sure to make a comment below, and I will likely grab the top comment or one of the top comments and make a tier list based on that. So what are keywords exactly in Hearthstone? Basically, they describe what a card can do. They're typically bolded on a card, so like Battlecry, Taunt, stuff like that, very basic. And there have been a lot of keywords throughout the history of Hearthstone. A lot of them only pop up in like one expansion. Sometimes they get reused, and sometimes they end up sticking around, like Discover is used a lot. So we're going to evaluate every single keyword, and the way I'm going to do it is rate it S through F. S being an absolutely insane keyword that's been like on so many insanely powerful cards, and F just being a completely failure of a mechanic that basically saw little to no play with its implementation and just died a sad death. So let's get going. Again, so for this, there's not really a great way of highlighting what the keyword is, so I'm going to use iconic cards that use said keywords, and I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible. So we are going to start with Battlecry. Basically, Battlecry means you trigger an effect which activates when the card is played from your hand. So, for instance, with Novice Engineer, you draw a card. Battlecry is probably the most used keyword ever in Hearthstone. Incredibly powerful. It allows cards to do so many different things, whether it be draw a card, silence a minion, deal damage, it's, whatever you want. It can do so many incredible things. It's definitely an S tier keyword, just so powerful, has so many uses, and I mean, even decks have been completely built around it with like Quest Shaman with the Battlecry quest. Next we have ChooseOne, keyword exclusive to Druid outside of I believe one dual class card. Basically allows the player to choose between two or more effects stated in the card. So you have, for instance, with Wrath, you can draw a card or deal damage, and ChooseOne has been very powerful throughout Druid's history, and there's been cards that have let you enable both of them, let you choose both effectively by playing Fandral or the Druid Quest. Very powerful, good with like Ancient of Lore back in the day, Ancient of War, Nourish, very powerful, but not quite like the absolute Giga Nuts type of powerful keyword, but definitely an A. It sees play in Druid historically and is very, very powerful. Next, we're taking a look at a rogue keyword combo. We're highlighting Edwin here, and basically what it means is whenever you trigger, it triggers an effect when played from your hand if you already played a card this turn. So a combo card doesn't do anything if you just play it straight up. You have to play something else. So for example, Edwin gains +2/+2 for every card you played this turn. So if you played 3 cards, he gains +6/+6, and he's no longer a 3-mana 2/2. He's a pretty big 8/8. And yes, combo has seen a ton of play throughout the history of Hearthstone and Rogue, whether it be Edwin, SI Agent. You've had wild cards like Raiding Party be very powerful. You have Evil Miscreant. Just a ton of insane combo cards, and it's a very rewarding mechanic, very interesting mechanic, and even Wand Thief recently introduced to the game, which is an insane combo card in Mage and Rogue. I'm going to give it an S tier. Like, combo has just been so powerful in Rogue throughout its entire run, and I mean, Edwin's one of the most broken cards in Hearthstone, and he has that keyword, and it's just a very, very powerful mechanic. Next, we have Death Rattle. It's a triggered effect that activates when a minion dies. So, for example, we have Loot Hoarder here, which has Death Rattle draw cards. So when he dies, he draws a card. And you've had tons of great Death Rattle minions throughout the history of Hearthstone, whether it be Sylvanas, which can steal a minion. You have cards like Sludge Belcher, which could give you a taunt, which could be very powerful. And yeah, Death Rattle's very good cards. Even have had builds around it with the old god Nizoth, which would summon all Death Rattles that have died this game. Very powerful mechanic, has popped up in nearly every expansion. Super powerful, super good, and typically can give you either value with draw or value in hand and card. It's just very powerful. Another kind of S tier, crazy good keyword. You just can't really undervalue how good Death Rattle has been throughout the history of Hearthstone. Next, we have Discover. One of the more infamous keywords these days. It allows you to choose one card from 3 random class-appropriate cards, unless specifically stated otherwise. So we have one of the original Discover cards here, Dark Peddler, who's a Warlock card, and let you discover a 1-cost card, so it'd be either a neutral or a Warlock option, and it was a very good card back in the day in like old Reno Lock. You could play it in Zoo. And yeah, Discover is just incredible. If you look at the list of Discover cards in the history of Hearthstone, almost everyone has seen competitive play at some point. It's insanely busted. It is just one of the most powerful effects ever, because not only is it value, it's a random value your opponent cannot play around. It can create just the most ridiculous of situations. I think this is the most powerful, even more powerful than Battlecry keyword ever made. It's like SS tier, super crazy good, and it can lead to really crazy, ridiculous games. I feel like it's a little overpowered at times, but you know, it's a cool mechanic. Just wish it was a little bit more selective in its pool. I like the discover a 1 cost, not discover literally everything type of thing. Next, we have Divine Shield. Divine Shield allows a minion to absorb the first source of any damage, and then the shield removes. So we have Argent Squire here, kind of like the OG Divine Shield minion. Also, like, iconic is like Tyrion. Ziliax was pretty good with it. Alakir. And it's a very good mechanic. It allows you to protect a minion. You can even play it Paladin. There's a spell, I believe, called something like Divine Shield. You have Righteous Protector, which can give Divine Shield, but historically Divine Shield's been good, but not amazing. It's been very good in like sticky decks to allow minions to stick, but other than that, you know, it pops up here and there. Giggling Inventor was pretty good at it, getting your Noitrons, but overall, I'll give it a low A. It's definitely strong. It sees a ton of play, but it's certainly not like an S tier mechanic. Next, we have Freeze, and we're highlighting Frost Nova, and when you freeze a character and it cannot attack, whether it be an enemy character or their minions. And yeah, it's a very uninteractive mechanic. It can be very frustrating. It's typically attached to Mage, but there are minions like Frost Elemental, Glacial Shard, there's that Shadow Weaver. There are minions that can freeze, whether it be minions or face, and it's a very powerful mechanic, and has historically seen a lot of play in Hearthstone. Is it S tier? I wouldn't give it that, but it's very good. It's a very high A, very solid, incredibly good keyword, and one that I think a lot of people wouldn't miss if it went away, to be honest. Nobody likes being frozen, you know? Next, we have Lifesteal. Lifesteal basically allows any damage dealt by the card associated with it to restore health to the controlling hero. And I felt like giving Judicious Jr. the highlight here because, well, she's never going to see play or ever get any spotlight. So we're using her here, and she's just Lifesteal, 4/9 Lifesteal. So if she attacked or dealt damage for 4, she would heal you for 4. You bought for it could be more. Lifesteal has been incredibly powerful since it's been introduced, whether it be on like Ziliax, whether it be like Penance, just incredibly powerful to heal and also deal damage. Sometimes it can be face damage, just incredibly powerful. Can give any deck a shot at staying alive, and healing has just been, it's just so valuable in Hearthstone. It can be so rare, and Lifesteal really gives you that lifesteal, that life reach. So I'm gonna give it an S. Lifesteal is definitely an S tier keyword. Next, we have Poisonous. So Poisonous effectively makes it so any minion damaged by a poisonous minion is destroyed. It immediately kills it. It doesn't matter how much health it has, it dies. So we have Emperor Cobra here, one of the original poisonous minions. It's a 3-mana 2/3, and yeah, it doesn't matter the attack, it just will kill whatever it hits. This mechanic hasn't been amazing throughout the history of Hearthstone. It's been okay, but typically you would want like Poisonous to give Rush, or you would like summon it with like a secret in like whether it be Hunter, you would summon one of these guys. You would summon a Cobra, or more recently in Rogue, you would summon a 2/3 with Poisonous. But overall, you typically don't run a lot of Poisonous cards in your decks. It's just never been that consistent a strategy, and I think it was most prevalent probably during the Rexar days when you could give a zombie Poisonous. I'm actually going to give Poisonous a C. I don't think it's that amazing. It's okay. It has its purposes, but overall, it's much more of a Battlegrounds type of a mechanic a lot of the time. Next keyword we have here is Outcast. It's the Demon Hunter exclusive outside of dual class effect, where you gain effect if it's on the right or left side, most side of your hand. So if we have, for instance, Skull of Gul'dan here, if it's on the left side or the right side of your hand, when you draw 3 cards, you will discount them by 3 mana. And this mechanic has been very powerful, whether it be through Skull of Gul'dan, or like I-Beam, just cheating out stuff or getting an insane effect can be very powerful. It was a lot better when Demon Hunter was absolutely busted and like Skull was 5 and I-Beam was 0, but there still are some very powerful Outcast cards, and the mechanic is very interesting. I don't find the fascinating part of the top deck to be cool, like rewarding you top deck to the Outcast, but managing the left side of your hand is very interesting and very cool And I like that a lot. I'm going to give it an A. I don't think it's quite the S tier mechanic quite yet, but it's done a lot of good work and can be very powerful. Next, we have Overload. This is a shaman mechanic for the most part, outside of dual class. You know what? I'll stop saying outside of dual class. Some of these are dual class if they're class exclusive, but yeah, you get the point. So Overload, you have X less mana next turn. So X is what's stipulated on the card. You play Lightning Bolt, for instance. It costs 1 mana, and you Overload for 1, which means next turn you will have 1 less mana. Overload has historically not been great in Shaman. Losing mana for the payoff of like paying something undercosted early rarely has been worth it because tempo is so key. Hitting your mana curve is so key. The only time Overload's been good is when you had cards like Tunnel Trog that could just actually make it worth overloading because you had an infinitely scaling overstated 1-drop. It was very powerful, but overall, Overload has been just a detriment. It hasn't been the best mechanic. Shaman has struggled as a result of it because most of their build around a lot of the time is Overload and it just doesn't work very well. But it has worked, it can do stuff, but overall, it's more of a downside than an upside a lot of the time, so I'm going to give it a C. Yeah, it's just not one of those keywords that have worked out fantastically well. Next, we have Rush. This enables a minion to attack enemy minions on the same turn it is summoned. It cannot go face, though. So Darius Crowley was one of the original Rush minions, and yeah, you play a 5-mana 4/4, it can immediately attack any enemy minion. And Rush has been incredibly powerful. It has been used a ton. It's a very favorite keyword that Blizzard has implemented and is one of the ones that has been further adopted and continued, and it's just incredibly powerful. Having a proactive trade and allowing you to control the board in some way, in some defensive measure like this, is incredibly powerful. It cannot be understated. Definitely an S tier mechanic, very well used. It can be a little bit obnoxious when it's overused at times, but I think it's a healthy mechanic. I like it. I like what it allows minion-based battles on the board, and I think that's what Hearthstone strives for. Next, we have Secret. This is exclusive to 4 classes, and it allows with 4 classes in Mage, Rogue, Hunter, and Paladin. And basically, it's a type of spell card that remains hidden until its trigger condition occurs, and then it's revealed and it triggers the effect. It can only be activated during the enemy's turn. You cannot activate a secret on your own turn. So we have one here is Ice Block, which would make you immune if you take fatal damage. And one of the most powerful secrets of all time. Got hella famed. But overall, secrets, if you look at Paladin, really been bad unless you had Mysterious Challenger be meta. Rogue, pretty hit and miss. The first batch were bad. The new ones are pretty good, mainly because of Shattered Jeweler Hanar. Hunter, been very playable. Have historically seen play, whether it be Freezing Trap, Explosive Trap, Cat Trick, things like that. And Mage, very powerful with like Ice Block, Counterspell, Barrier, whether it be defensive or aggressive, explosive runes. So I'm going to give Secrets the middle of the road. Very good in a couple classes, pretty bad in a couple of the other ones. They can do a lot of good stuff, but they can be very frustrating to play around. Not knowing what the secret is, and especially when they're randomly generated, can be quite infuriating. But yeah, it's a very good mechanic in terms of strength, but only in a couple classes, so we'll give it that middling B. Next, we have Silence. Silence removes all card text enhancements and abilities from the target minion. So we have Iron Beak Howl here, Battlecry, Silence the minion. Historically, you know, Silence has been alright. It gets rid of Taunt a lot of the time. It can make an Edwin balanced. It can do a lot of good stuff like that, but his Silence has been neutered a lot in the game. Spellbreaker was Hall of Famed. Iron Beak Owl was nerfed. You have like a 0-mana Silence and Priest. Demon Hunter has access to some Silence, but other than that, I think Druid is Keeper of the Grove. There's not a lot of Silence in the game, and most of the Silence cards are just not very good. The mechanic's alright, it's okay. It can be kind of frustrating to have your strategy nullified by a Silence effect, and that's kind of why they kind of diminish it and not really, make Silence prevalent in the game. I'll give it a B. It's definitely seen a good amount of play throughout the history of Hearthstone, but lately it's fallen off a lot, mainly due to the design choices and balancing that Blizzard has taken. Next, we have Stealth. Minions with Stealth cannot be attacked by enemy attacks, spells, or abilities until they attack or deal damage. So we have Stranglethorn Tiger here. It's a 5-mana 5/5 Stealth. So basically, you got to kill it with like an AoE or some kind of like spell that like has a mass effect, like Twisting Nether or something like Deadly Shot. Stealth has been okay, not great. It really depends. Like, you have to have something to kind of enable it. Like, right now, you see it a little bit in Rogue, because they can draw 2 cards with their stealth minions. They can give +3 attack and immune with their stealth minions. But outside of that, you don't really see a ton of stealth. You saw it a little bit in like Rogue with like Conceal. Stealth was pretty powerful there, but that got Hall of Famed. And yeah, Stealth, I'm going to give it a C. I don't think it's that powerful a keyword these days. And, you know, it pops up here and there. It is meta in Rogue right now, but I don't see Stealth as like this big kind of powerful keyword that has really been popular a lot of the time. The only like historical card I can think of outside of the Conceal thing was like Shade of Naxxramas, and again, that card didn't really see play for a very long time. Next, we have Spell Damage. What Spell Damage does is increases the damage of your spells by the amount stated. So we have Malygos here, Spell Damage +5. So if you have a Fireball, it does 6 damage. Malygos makes it do 11. So that can be quite powerful. Spell Damage, quite recently in Mage has been very good. They have the Spell Damage package with like Cram Session and the Discover Spell Damage minion, which can be good. And Spell Damage has historically been insanely good with enabling combos like Malygos, or just like in Reno Priest where you like Blood Mage Thalanos and Spirit Lash and heal for a bunch. It's a very versatile keyword, but not amazing. It's like kind of middle of the road for me. I'm going to give it a B. Spell Damage doesn't pop up as much as you would think. It used to a lot more when Azure Drake was like in every deck, but not so much anymore. And Blood Mage doesn't even see a ton of play. Malygos definitely pops up, but yeah, I'm going to give it a middle of the road. Spell Damage is very cool, very flavorful, can be very impactful, but again, it kind of is very meta dependent and not all around like dominant. Next, we have Taunt. Taunt means an enemy must attack the minion with Taunt before attacking any non-Taunt characters outside of, like, you know, silencing it, or like Kane for Demon Hunter can get through it, or, you know, spells can go over it. So we have Silverback Patriarch, the most iconic Taunt minion of all time. He's a 3-mana 1/4 Taunt, so you got to deal 4 damage to him before you get through to the enemy hero. And yeah, Taunt's been very powerful. It protects you, it lets you live against aggressive decks. When you combine it with effects like Lifesteal or Death Rattle, it can be incredibly powerful. And Taunt has historically seen a ton of play throughout the history of Hearthstone. I was on the fence between S and A, but the fact that Silence has been knocked down a bunch and Taunt is just so valuable in staying alive, I'll put it with Lifesteal. It's very, very close to me to being only A tier, but we'll give it an S. Taunt has just been so fundamental in the history of Hearthstone to give yourself a defensive strategy, which can be very hard to accomplish, and it definitely has done that very well. Next, we have Wind Fury. This is typically pretty Shaman-centric. Rogue has... Next, we have Wind Fury. It's a keyword that means you can attack twice each turn. So we have Doomhammer here. This is a shaman weapon. And when you equip Doomhammer, you can attack twice with it each turn. And yeah, how powerful has Wind Fury been? Not amazingly powerful. It's more powerful with like Zephrys when you have a big minion and you Zephrys and give it Wind Fury. And you have like Wind Speaker can do that, or the Wind Fury spell. Alakir's had Wind Fury, and there's been some other cards like Walking Fountain, and yeah, it's just not the most amazing mechanic. I believe like Druid right now is like Windspeaker Guidra, which has Wind Fury, which isn't too bad, but again, Wind Fury has not been super prevalent in the game. Like, it's okay. It was a decent like adapt. We'll get to adapt in a sec. But overall, as a standalone keyword, it has not been super prevalent in the game. So I'm going to give it a C for that reason. It can be very powerful, but it's very hit and miss when it pops up. So we'll give it a high C. It's a borderline B, but yeah, Wind Fury can be very powerful, but again, it's just, they've been very sparse when using it, and I understand it can be such an incredible, powerful effect, so we'll give it a C. So next we're going to be taking a look, these are a lot more keywords that aren't used that regularly, but kind of like exclusive to either like a couple expansions or just seldomly used now. So we have Adapt, which was from Angora, which you get to choose one of 3 possible upgrades to the possessing minion, and these varied, whether it be Wind Fury, give your minion plus Death Rattle, plus give 2 spores, plus 3 attack, plus 3 health, plus 1 attack health, things like that. It was pretty good during its time. Crackling Razormaw was probably one of the most powerful ones. You had like Vicious Fledgling, and some other adapt options. Gentle Megasaur wasn't the most powerful keyword ever. It was good. The variance on it could be quite the struggle to make it work. If you didn't hit your poisonous when you needed to get through a taunt or something, it could be bad. But it saw its play. I'll give it a low B. I don't know if it's quite that high. Maybe it should be a C, but it was very powerful during its time in Standard. You don't really see it at all in Wild anymore, but For its strength and standard for the time it was there, I'll give it a B, but maybe I'm overrating it a little bit. Next, we have Cast When Drawn. So this one's a little bit more of an oddity. I'm highlighting Ysera Unleashed here. So it's a Battlecry minion, but it puts portals in your deck, and when those portals are drawn, then it's cast when drawn. So you get a dragon, and then you cast it. You get that portal, it's cast immediately. Same goes for like bombs. You get the bomb, it's cast. You get spiders from the rogue stuff, like Beneath the Grounds, it's cast, you summon the spiders. So these effects have been relatively powerful. Like, there's been a couple whiffs, like there was like the Summoning Keeper, whatever. The guys that put 2/2 Rush Minion portals in your deck, those were terrible. But overall, like getting dragons, making your opponent draw bombs, you had the Hakar Bloods, things like that. Summoning when drawn, or Cast When Drawn has been relatively powerful. Is it like super top tier keyword? No, but it's an interesting one. I'll give it a B. It's definitely sees plenty of play right now, especially with Ysera and the bombs, but you know, it really depends on what the top power level cards are at the time that have that, and some have been pretty missed, so we'll give it a B. Next, we have Charge, and yes, Charge is used pretty seldomly these days. We have the OG Stone Test board, and Charge basically enables the minion to attack on the same turn it is summoned, so you immediately get to attack with Stone Test board. You can go 1/1 straight to the face. Pretty iconic Charge minions are like Leroy, Doomguard, Wolf Rider. You have Kane right now in Standard, and yeah, Cork Runner, Elite, Grommash. You get the point. Charge has been a very powerful mechanic, so powerful to the fact that, yeah, Blizzard basically rarely ever prints Charge anymore. They're very hesitant on it because it is incredibly powerful and is very non-interactive. It's hard, you know, unless you have a Taunt up, it's very hard to counter. So yeah, Charge, it's S tier. I mean, there's been like almost every Charge minion in the history of Hearthstone has seen play because it's just such a powerful effect. Even our little piggy, Stone Test Boar, which looks pretty unthreatening as a 1/1, has been quite the menace at time. Next, we have a keyword that was literally only used once, but it is a keyword in the history of Hearthstone, so we're looking at it, and it's Choose Twice. It's a variation of ChooseOne that allows the player to continue to combine two options or pick the same option twice from a list. So you're with Branching Paths, we're highlighting here, you could either draw a card, gain 6 armor, or give your minions +1 attack. This is the only Choose Twice card ever. And it's in like every Druid deck almost ever, because it's so ridiculously good. As a result, I have to give it an S tier. It's kind of, you know, cheap and lame to do that, but when your only card ever to use that keyword is pretty much busted, you gotta give it an S. And it's been insanely good, whether it be in a combo deck, a cycle deck, it could be used in token decks, it could be used just to stay alive with armor, it could be used with like literally everything. It's so good. 12 armor, amazing. Drawing 2 cards for 4, pretty good. Buffing your minions, really good. Just ridiculously good card. And it's the only one. Speaking of keywords with only one card to associate it with, we have Counter. And Counter means prevent a spell that was cast from taking effect. It is only used in Counterspell. Yes, there is a keyword that has been around since day one effectively in Counterspell that's only ever been used once. I don't know why, but there it is. Counterspell, very good card. Not quite Branching Paths good, but you know, Secret Mage loves it, and a lot of the aggressive mage decks, whenever they're good in Standard, like Counterspell. So, you know, I'll give it a low A. Counter is really good in Counterspell, and that's literally the only card that have the keyword, so we kind of got to go with it. Next, we have Dormant, one of the newer keywords. It basically means a minion becomes a permanent until certain conditions are fulfilled, and permanent means that like it can't be attacked. It's like completely uninteractable. There's no way to deal with a dormant minion until it is summoned. So we have right here we have Imprisoned Battlefiend. He stays dormant for 2 turns, and then after, so you play him, and then 2 turns later he becomes active, and he has Rush, and then he can be interacted with, whether it be by the enemy or the friendly person. Like, you can't buff it yourself if it's dormant. So the effect has been pretty powerful. You had like Scrap Imp was good. This guy's good. There was like a Taunt in Priest that wasn't too bad. Grenache, or whatever it's called, in Warrior. They give you a War Axe was a pretty solid card. Dormant was very solid. I don't think it was like overwhelmingly good. It was just solid. So I'll give it a B. Definitely allowed for some good stuff. With Anton and Demon Hunter, it was kind of broken, but now Anton doesn't see any play since it's 6, so I'll give it a B. It's definitely a powerful keyword, but not like super powerful. Next, we have Echo. Echo effectively allows you to add another copy of the card to your hand after it's played, and then it disappears at the end of your turn. So we're highlighting here Ghostlight Angler. So you would play a 2/2 Murloc, and then you would be able to play as many as you want, either with either the board space or the mana. And yeah, Echo hasn't been that fantastic, to be honest with you. The only Echo card that I can think of that was really, really powerful was likely Snip Snap. Because in Wild, you have the infinite Echo Magnetic combo with Summoning Portal. Echo just, yeah, was not amazing. You had like Rush minions that you could do Echo with in Hunter. That was too good. For the most part, almost every Echo card was kind of overcosted because for the Echo effect, but that just made it not flexible enough, not good enough. I guess one exception is like Phantom Militia. It was pretty good in Quest Warrior, but I'm actually going to give Echo a C. It wasn't really the most powerful. It had its uses, but overall was pretty underwhelming outside of like Snip Snap, which effect was eventually nerfed. Next we have Immune keyword, which means it prevents any damage dealt from any source to the target, and it prevents all interaction with the target. So right here we have Timeout. This is a spell for Paladin, and it makes your hero immune. So you cannot damage, you cannot attack, you cannot do anything to the hero as long as it's immune. Mal'Ganis has given this effect, Ice Block. And pretty much every card that has given this effect, for the most part, has been powerful, has seen play, and is just very good. Yeah, it's a very powerful mechanic. Making anything immune can be really good. There is some weak cards, like Bestial Wrath. There's some, basically the minion ones. The ones that give minions immune haven't been great. Like, we've had the new dual-class Cream Legendary right now. Not that great, but when it's for your hero, very powerful. But for that reason, the variance on it, I'll give it a B, but certainly nothing too bad. Next, we have Inspire, one of the first keywords added to the game in the expansions, and what it did, it would trigger an effect that would activate each time the controlling hero used their hero power. So I'm highlighting Lowly Squire here. If you would hero power, give him +1 attack, and like Odd Demon Hunter like to do that. Inspire, really not that great. It didn't see a ton of play. Like, in Wild right now, I think Spawn of Shadows and Lowly Squire and like Odd DH are like the only cards that see play. Dragon's Bane in Standard's pretty good, but it's not technically an Inspire card. It just shares the same mechanic. Inspire was basically a dud. It was a cool mechanic. It rewarded using your hero power, but because of how expensive the hero power is at 2 mana, it just never really worked out until like you found ways of discounting your hero power, whether it be through Gen or just playing Demon Hunter, which has a 1 mana hero power. So as a result, I'm going to give Inspire a C. It was very, very lackluster throughout most of its run in Standard, and has only popped up here and there in Wild. But overall, I don't think it was a terribly designed one. It was just a little too fair. And when you're fair in Hearthstone, it's just not good enough. Next, we have the keyword Invoke, and this is a Galacrum specific keyword. It will trigger the Galacrum hero power every time an Invoke occurs. So we have Shield of Galacrum here, and it Battlecry, invoke your Galacrum. So whether it be Rogue, where you invoke it and you get a Lackey, or you play Warlock, you invoke it and get 2 1/1 imps, it's pretty good. Galacrons were really, really powerful during Descent of Dragons, and they've been scaled back through balance patches and just other powerful cards coming in, to the point that we don't see a lot of Galacron. And right now, all the Galacron decks, like Warrior and Priest, don't run that many Invokes anymore. They're actually just running the Galacron for its value now. So Invoke has fallen off a lot. I would have put this at S during Descent of Dragons, but I think it's fallen all the way down to B. Like, you just don't see a lot of invoking going on anymore, and it's kind of crazy how things change, but it was very powerful for quite a good amount of time, but not quite so much now. Next, we have Magnetic. This is a mech exclusive keyword, and it allows a magnetic minion to the left of a mech. You have to play that to the left, merge the 2 cards together, combining their stats and effects. So if you have like a 1/1 mech on board and you play War Gear and you magnetize onto it, it's a 6/6. And this can go directly face too. It doesn't have to deal with the summoning sickness. It doesn't have to, it's like effectively charge. This mechanic was very powerful, whether it be on Ziliax, Snip Snap, War Gear, I think Glowtron. It was very powerful, and there was a lot of good mech decks. There was like Paladin, Hunter, Warrior was able to use Magnetic well as well. It was very powerful, very good. Is it S tier? No, but I'm definitely going to give Magnetic an A. It was just incredibly powerful during its run in Standard, and still sees play today in Wild in like Mech Paladin. Very good. Next, we have Mega Wind Fury. Only 1 minion in the game has Mega Wind Fury, and it's not even a card you can hard run. You have to generate it. In Voltron, we're highlighting here, And Mega Wind Fury is like Wind Fury, but instead of attacking twice, it can attack 4 times. There is one card in the game, it's an 8-drop, that can give a minion Mega Wind Fury if that minion has Wind Fury. So there are 2 cards that have enabled Mega Wind Fury. Neither have ever been remotely playable or good. And yeah, for that reason, it's kind of funny to give Mega Wind Fury an F when Wind Fury is a C, because technically Mega Wind Fury is better, but when literally no Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 deck has ever, in the history of Hearthstone, used the word Mega Wind Fury as a realistic win condition, it's kind of a fail. But if it was in terms of a meme, it'd probably be an S, so at least consider that. Next, we have Overkill. This was only for one expansion, this keyword, and it triggers an effect that activates when dealing more damage than needed to kill its target. So we have Linecracker here, one of the only playable Overkill cards there was, or is. And right now, it doubles attack whenever time it overkills something. So if a minion has 4 health and it hits it for 5, it will overkill it and get 10 attacks. So I think we know the Armor Druid thing, where if you bees it, it counts as overkilling the bees, and that's why it can double its attack 8 times, and then you give it a ridiculous amount of armor with, like, Earthen Scales. But outside of Linecracker, Overkill basically saw 0 play. There was a weapon, I think Salt Rays it was called, I'm not entirely sure, for Warrior, that was like a 6-mana 4/4 weapon that Overkill allowed you to attack multiple times. It's the only other Overkill card that reasonably saw much play. Darius Crowley saw a bit of play with it, but that didn't even count as Overkill. That was its own mechanic. Overkill just was not very good at all, and just sees like fringe play as like an armor deck in Wild. I'm actually going to give Overkill an F as well. I know Linecracker has popped up as a tier 2 or 3 deck, but that's not enough for me to say Overkill's not a fail when basically the entire mechanic basically never saw play in Standard, outside of like the odd couple of exceptions. Next we have Passive. So Passive is a card that continually provides a global effect to the game via an aura. It's a little convoluted, but we're looking at Osarian's Tier, Obsidian's Tier, whatever it's called for Druid, their Druid quest. So it has the passive effect of giving your ChooseOne cards to both effects are combined. Another example of this would be the Amazing Reno as the passive effect of casting a random spell at the start of your turn. The Quest Rogue, the Caverns Below, gave you a passive effect of your minions were either 5/5s or 4/4s. This effect has been very strong in almost every instance. Like, Quest Druid was very good for quite some time. The Amazing Reno sees it play in Standard and Wild, and Quest Rogue was one of the most busted quests until it got nerfed like multiple times. I won't give it an S, but passive can be very powerful. Having that infinite value that no one can interact with, you cannot undervalue how powerful that can be. Next, we have Quests. It's a special spell card that does not take effect until requirements are met. It always starts in your opening hand, and yeah, we've seen 2 waves of quests during Ungoro and Old Doom, and we're highlighting one of the most prolific and iconic quests, the Caverns Below. So you can see you have this quest, and you have to get the requirement. For this one, you have to play 5 minions of the same name, and then your reward is the Crystal Core, which makes your minions 4/4 for the rest of the game, and every quest works that way. The more recent quests will change your hero power into a reward, whereas these ones, the old ones, which give you a 5-mana spell or a minion. Quests have been incredibly powerful. They've pretty much always have seen play. In Standard right now, we don't see a lot of quest decks, but you never know when it pops back up. Like Quest Shaman, 1 card away from being insane. Quest Druid could be 1 card away from being insane. And in Wild, you see Quest Mage. You see other quests pop up here and there. I'm giving quests an S. They can be hit and miss overall. Like, you have some pretty bad quests, but the impact they've had on the game, the power level some of them have had on the game, have just been absolutely ridiculous, and is definitely worthy of an S tier. Next, we have Reborn. The first time the minion dies, it returns it to life with 1 health remaining. So similar to Death Rattle. It's been okay. There's like a Reborn quest in Paladin that was really bad that barely saw play. And yeah, Reborn, you see it more of Reborn just from playing Pharaoh Cat and Rogue, because generating a random Reborn's pretty good, but you don't play a lot of Reborn. Like, the best Reborn minions you really see are like the Taunt ones, like Cartoot Defender, because it's Death Rattle on top of it, and then you have like the 2/5 Reborn Taunt. But overall, yeah, Restless Mummy, probably another good one for Warrior. The Rush one is very powerful. But aside of that, there's only a few, so I'll give it a B. There are definitely some very powerful Reborn minions, and generating Reborn can be really good, but yeah, it's definitely not one of the top tier keywords. Next, we have Recruit. It summons a random minion from the player's deck, and sometimes it can specify it. So we have Possessed Lackey, one of the most powerful original Recruit minions. It would recruit a demon. So Possessed Lackey die, it would pull any random demon from your deck. And back when this was around, that'd be a Doomguard or a Void Lord, which is insane. And yeah, Recruit actually does not belong to Yashiraj. That was like the original Recruit type of thing, but it didn't actually have it on there. But you had like Silver Vanguard, which could cheat out 8 drops, and you had some other Recruit mechanics. Call to Arms being very prolific. Call to Arms was absolutely broken at 4 mana when it came out. And yeah, Recruit is just could be very powerful. Cheating out minions is insanely good. It's fallen off a lot lately because a lot of the Recruit cards got nerfed. They were just too good. And yeah, I kind of have to dial it back to a B to where it's at now. But yeah, at one point it was an S tier keyword. It was absolutely crazy. And just through balance patches and stuff, it's kind of at that medium level now. Next, we have side quests. So these are different than regular quests. It's a type of spell that does not take effect, again, until certain requirements are met. But unlike quests, they do not start in your opening hand. So you would have to draw it. And as a result, their requirements are typically not as demanding. So like we're highlighting toxic reinforcements here. You'd have to use your hero power 3 times and you get 3 leper gnomes. Not exactly the most insane requirement, right? Unlike the regular quests, which you have to build your deck around typically, because you know, side quests, you don't get to draw. It's kind of ridiculous to draw your deck around. Anyways, they haven't seen a ton of play. You have the Hunter one, which is pretty good. The other Hunter one, which gave you Rush minions, saw a bit of play in Quest Hunter. The Mage ones, there's like one with Elementals, it was alright. The Druid one saw a little bit of play. Strength in numbers, you would cheat out a minion. The Claw one saw no play. And then in Mage, the one getting a 6/6 with some spending 8 mana and spells saw a little bit of play. But yeah, overall, side quests were pretty meh. They were like just not that powerful, not that great. They're just okay. And only like I'd say 50% of them really saw any realistic play. And now you see pretty much only toxic reinforcements pop up here and there in like Face Hunter, or the side quests pops up in Odd Paladin and Wild. I'll give side quests a C. They just haven't been that great. But, you know, not the worst in the world, not an F by any means. We have Spell Burst, the newest keyword added to the game. And what that means, it's a one-time triggered effect that does something when you cast a spell. So we're highlighting Firebrand here. So when you Spell Burst, deals 4 damage to 4 damage randomly to minions. So cast a spell, Spell Burst goes off, you get the effect. Spell Burst has been pretty good. You have like Cabal Acolyte, which recently got nerfed in Priest, which would like randomly steal a 2-cost minion. And yeah, Firebrand, other cards like that. You have the Paladin and Priest Legendary that can cheat out a spell. I think Spellburst has been very powerful, very good, and I like the design. I think it's a pretty cool design. I'll give it an A. I think it's done a lot of good work in Standard, and we'll see how it keeps going. But typically when a new keyword comes in, it comes in strong, like Recruit, and then eventually falls off. So it'll be interesting to see where Spellburst lands like a year from now. Next, we have Start of Game effect. There's 3 cards that have done this effect. You have Baku, Gen, and you have Prince Malchezaar. So effectively, you put this card in your deck, and then at the start of the game, a certain condition, a certain event will occur. So with Baku, you would upgrade your hero power. If you only had odd cost cards, Gen, you have a 1-cost hero power if you only even cost card. And Prince Malchezaar would put 5 legendaries, random legendaries, into your deck. 2 of those cards were absolutely broken and were Hall of Fame because they were too good, and the other one led to 35 legendary duels between myself and Crip. I'm gonna give it an S because Gen and Baku were just too broken, and Prince Malchezaar was kind of a meme, but whatever. It's a solid meme. You kind of gotta give it that S tier quality, just kind of ridiculously powerful to give yourself a start of game condition that's so consistent, so powerful, outside of random legendaries, that you can't really put it anywhere lower than an S, in my opinion. Next, we have Twin Spell. You get when you cast a spell, it puts another copy into your hand without the Twin Spell ability. So we have Conjurer's Calling here. We destroy a minion and then summon 2 at the same cost, and then you get another Conjurer's Calling in your hand. Another popular one is like Ray of Frost. In Mage, Twin Spell was great, really powerful. Other classes, not quite as much. Like, we've seen some twin spells like Blessing of Anciency play, Unleash the Beast, Forest 8 saw a little bit, but overall it's been basically the mage ones in Ray of Frost and Conjurer's Calling. There was a new twin spell made recently with Fresh Scent, but that didn't really pop up too much in Hunter at all outside of some experimentation. And Rising Wind saw some play in like Quest Druid and some Wild Druid decks, but twin spell's kind of the middle of the road. Conjurers and Ray of Frost are so ridiculously good that I'll give it a low B. But yeah, the other twin spells were either underwhelming, average, or just outright pretty bad. Like getting a random Secrets and Paladin was just brutal. And last, we're going to do an honorable mention. Enrage used to be a keyword. It no longer is, but what Enrage was is if a minion got damaged, it got like a bonus effect, typically +2 attack or something like that, or whether it be Raging Worgen, it got Wind Fury when enraged and a +1 attack. Yeah, its mechanic's been pretty good with like Grommash, Raging Worgen OTK back in the day. But yeah, it's used sparingly. It's a decent one. It's a middle of the road one, but I had to put it on there because we remember Enrage a lot of us OGs, so we'll throw it on there. We'll give it a B. And that is a review, a tier list of every single keyword in the history of Hearthstone. Again, let me know in the comments below what tier list we should take a look at next time, and let me know which ones you disagree with, agree with. What did I overrate? What did I underrate? Let me know in the comments below. It's always a fun debate to have. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.